The power of mental stimulation is often overlooked, yet it is the foundation of almost every desire that turns into physical release. The mind does not just participate in the process, it leads it. Long before the body reacts, the imagination has already started painting pictures, filling in details and heightening sensations that haven't even occurred yet. This is why 98% of men respond so strongly when their thoughts are engaged, because the brain is the most sensitive erogenous zone. A whisper, a glance, a suggestive pause. These are not just small gestures, they are messages to the mind, and the mind translates them into waves of arousal that ripple through the entire body. When mental stimulation is present, even the simplest touch feels amplified, as if magnified tenfold. The body interprets suggestion as reality. Just the idea of what could happen is often more powerful than what is actually happening in that moment. This is why anticipation drives men wild. It stretches the imagination to the point where the release becomes almost inevitable. The brain holds onto that image, that fantasy, that spark, and keeps replaying it, fueling a level of desire that the body cannot ignore. The truth is, men are not aroused by physical action alone. It is the story behind the action, the meaning given to it, that makes the difference. A slow caress combined with the right look, the right tone of voice, can create a sensation that feels far more intense than anything rushed or mechanical. That is the hidden power of psychological play. It takes something ordinary and makes it extraordinary simply by engaging the mind. Mental stimulation also works because it removes the need for constant action. The silence between movements, the waiting, the pause, all feed the imagination. During these moments, the brain is writing its own narrative, exaggerating every detail, making the eventual climax feel like it has been building for ages. This build-up is what creates such overwhelming responses, and why men often lose themselves completely when their mind has been teased long enough. So, when it comes to understanding why almost every man can reach orgasm from this hidden trigger, it is not about physical force or endless movement. It is about knowing how to awaken the imagination, how to spark thoughts that cannot be contained. Once the mind is captured, the body simply follows. Anticipation is the hidden energy that makes everything more intense, more memorable, and more uncontrollable. When desire is drawn out, when there is time to imagine what comes next, the body reacts far stronger than it ever would with instant gratification. It is like stretching a bowstring tighter and tighter. The longer it holds, the more powerful the release. This is why waiting, teasing, and building tension can cause 98% of men to lose themselves so quickly once the moment finally arrives. The mind does not stay still during that waiting. It creates scenarios. It amplifies sensations. It heightens every little detail until the body feels as though it has no choice but to respond. There is something irresistible about not knowing exactly when the next touch will come or how long the moment will be delayed. That uncertainty keeps the mind focused, keeps the senses on edge, and turns the body hypersensitive. A hand that lingers just short of where it's wanted, a pause in the middle of a breath, a gaze that holds back just long enough. These are not accidents. They are the very tools that shape anticipation into ecstasy. What happens is not simply physical arousal, it is psychological suspense. The brain is begging for release even before the body catches up, which is why when it finally happens, the climax is overwhelming. The beauty of anticipation is that it transforms simplicity into intensity. Even the smallest movement becomes electrifying if it comes after a long pause. A whisper after silence, a touch after distance, a look after avoidance. These moments become unforgettable because they arrive after the tension has been stretched. Men are wired to crave completion, and anticipation plays with that craving, delaying the satisfaction just enough to make it almost unbearable. When the moment finally breaks, it feels not only like pleasure, but like relief, an unstoppable flood that the body could never resist. This is the secret many overlook. It is not always about speed or pressure, but about timing, giving the mind space to wander, giving the body time to ache for what it wants, That is what makes 98% of men surrender so completely. It is not impatience that drives desire, it is the art of waiting. And the longer the anticipation is sustained, the more powerful the release will always be. Touch over technique is where most people misunderstand the true source of power. Many believe that complexity, tricks, or constant change are what create the deepest reactions, but in reality, the human body responds most profoundly to simplicity done with intention. A single, steady touch carries more weight than a dozen rushed movements. When touch is deliberate, patient, and meaningful, the body interprets it as connection rather than performance. That is why 98% of men respond more strongly to consistent, mindful contact than to any so-called advanced technique. It is not about how many moves are known, it is about how much presence is given to each one. The skin is alive with thousands of receptors, all tuned to pressure, warmth, and movement. What excites these receptors most is not frantic activity, but the depth of attention behind the touch. When the body feels that every stroke has intention, when it senses that there is no rush, it surrenders more quickly. A gentle trace along the arm, a slow press of fingertips against the chest, a hand that lingers rather than pulls away, these create waves of sensation far stronger than anything complicated. It is the difference between being touched and being felt. What makes this even more powerful is rhythm. A body thrives on predictability more than chaos. When touch follows a pattern, the nervous system begins to sync with it, and arousal builds steadily rather than unevenly. That steady climb is what makes the eventual release so uncontrollable. Men are not overwhelmed because of tricks or surprises. They are overwhelmed because the body has been carried step by step to a place where resistance is impossible. Technique may look impressive, but it often distracts from presence. Too much performance removes authenticity, and the body notices. In contrast, a simple touch that carries warmth, patience, and focus can make every nerve ignite. This is why even a slow caress, a palm resting firmly, or a thumb moving in circles can undo a man faster than anything else. Simplicity speaks louder because it allows the mind to relax and the body to surrender. The truth is, touch over technique is the unspoken rule behind 98% of male orgasms. It isn't about knowing everything. It's about meaning everything. A single touch, when it comes with presence and intention, is enough to unravel even the strongest restraint. Emotional connection is the invisible element that transforms physical release into something far more powerful and unforgettable. The body can respond to touch alone, but when the heart and mind feel linked, the experience is magnified beyond measure. Men may not always speak about it openly, but the truth is clear. Trust, safety, and intimacy create the environment where 98% of them can let go completely. Without that connection, even the most skilled touch can feel shallow. With it, the simplest gesture becomes overwhelming. Emotional intimacy is not decoration, it is the foundation. When a man feels seen, when he feels that his presence matters, the walls he usually keeps up begin to dissolve. In that space of vulnerability, his body reacts with a freedom it would never allow otherwise. This is why comfort and closeness matter so much, because they silence the inner voice of tension, insecurity, or resistance. Once those barriers are gone, the body stops holding back. Release flows naturally because it no longer has to fight against restraint. Emotional safety tells the nervous system, you can surrender here, and the body obeys. What deepens this even further is the exchange of energy. It is not only about what is done, but about what is felt between two people. A look that lingers, a soft laugh shared in the middle of closeness, a moment of genuine care, all of these turn physical pleasure into emotional intimacy. This blend makes the experience richer because the brain interprets the closeness as connection, not just sensation. That interpretation is what intensifies arousal, building a climax that feels not only physical, but deeply personal. Even small gestures, when tied to emotion, carry immense weight. A hand on the face, a whisper of reassurance, a gentle squeeze that communicates presence. These are subtle, but they carry meaning. And it is meaning that makes the difference. A purely physical touch excites the body, but a touch that comes wrapped in trust excites both body and soul. That is why 98% of men surrender more completely when emotional intimacy is involved, because it makes them feel safe enough to stop controlling the moment. The truth is, emotional connection is not just an accessory to desire, it is the amplifier. It turns a fleeting moment into a lasting memory. It is the difference between surface pleasure and overwhelming release, between being touched and being truly known. Focus on sensory triggers is the hidden key that awakens desire in ways the body cannot resist. Men may think arousal is purely physical, but the truth is that the senses, sight, sound, touch, smell, and even taste, are what shape the intensity of the experience. When these triggers are activated, the body enters a heightened state where every sensation feels multiplied. This is why 98% of men respond so strongly when their senses are teased and layered, because it creates a world where the mind and body cannot separate what is imagined from what is real. The voice is one of the most powerful triggers. A change in tone, a whisper close to the ear, or even the rhythm of breathing can send waves of anticipation rushing through the body. The mind reacts to sound almost instantly, creating images and emotions before the body has even been touched. Just a single phrase spoken softly can make the skin burn with sensitivity because the brain connects words with meaning and meaning with arousal. Sight is just as powerful. A lingering look, the curve of a smile, the way movement is carried, all of these send signals that bypass logic and dive straight into desire. Men are visual creatures, and when their eyes are engaged, the body follows. But it is not only about being bold, it is also about subtlety. A fleeting glance, a playful expression, or even the way light falls across a face can be enough to spark overwhelming arousal. Touch, when combined with other senses, becomes even more intense. A hand that drags slowly across the skin feels different when paired with breath against the neck or a whispered word in the ear. The layering of sensory input magnifies the reaction, making release almost inevitable. What begins as a simple gesture turns into a flood of sensation that overwhelms the nervous system. Even scent plays a role that is often underestimated. The smell of skin, perfume, or natural pheromones ties the experience to memory, making it unforgettable. These scents sink into the subconscious and resurface later, reigniting desire long after the moment has passed. This is why focusing on sensory triggers is so effective. It transforms arousal into a full body, full mind experience. 98% of men do not surrender simply because of one touch or one move. They surrender because all their senses have been awakened, leaving them no choice but to let go. Letting go of control is the final step that turns desire into an unstoppable force. Many men carry tension, responsibility, and restraint in their daily lives. They are taught to hold back, to manage, to direct every outcome. But when it comes to intimacy, that very control becomes the barrier that prevents them from fully surrendering. The moment they release it, the experience transforms from something ordinary into something overwhelming. This is why 98% of men reach their peak, not because of what is being done to them, but because they are finally able to let go. Control keeps the mind busy, questioning, analyzing, and anticipating. It holds the body tight, unwilling to completely yield. But when the environment feels safe enough, when there is trust and comfort, the need for control dissolves. The nervous system relaxes, muscles loosen, and the mind stops interfering. This freedom allows the body to respond naturally, without resistance. What follows is not just physical release, but an emotional unburdening, as though all the weight of restraint has been lifted in a single moment. Letting go also heightens every sensation. When a man is no longer trying to manage his reactions, he feels everything more deeply. A touch becomes more electric, a whisper more intoxicating, a pause more unbearable. Instead of holding back, the body leans into the moment, magnifying each wave of arousal until climax is inevitable. This surrender is what makes the orgasm feel not only powerful but uncontrollable, as if it overtakes him entirely. The truth is, surrender cannot be forced, it must be allowed. It happens when the right mix of anticipation, trust, and sensory stimulation creates a space where control feels unnecessary. Once this happens, the release is more than just physical pleasure. It feels like freedom. It carries a depth that lingers afterward, because it was not just about the body letting go, it was about the mind finally releasing its grip. 98% of men orgasm most intensely when they are able to abandon control. Not because of skill, not because of endless technique, but because surrender opened the door for everything else to flow. Letting go is not weakness. It is the very thing that makes the experience unforgettable. It is the difference between holding back and being swept away completely. In the end, it all comes down to something far simpler than most ever imagine. 98% of men are not undone by complicated tricks, endless variety, or constant performance. They are undone by the mind being ignited, by anticipation stretched until it cannot hold any longer, by touches that carry meaning rather than speed, by connection that feels safe and real, by senses awakened in harmony, and finally by the freedom to let go without restraint. When all of these come together, release is no longer just physical. It is mental, emotional, and unforgettable. The secret has never been about doing more, it has always been about feeling deeper. And once that is understood, the experience will always rise beyond the ordinary into something truly unstoppable.